Orange and blue sunset at Mile High here in Broncos country. Let's get ready to ride. Russ and the rest are gonna light up the sky. We'll break it down after the game with the guys. Hometown heroes with their own sports bar. The best coverage in Denver, don't go too far. Just turn on DNVR. We are DNVR.
Welcome in to the DNVR Broncos A Win is a Winner's Lounge. Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's go. We're off to a hot start, unlike the Denver Broncos. A win is a win, like I said. But damn, fellas, it sure as hell wasn't pretty.
Oh man, it feels like a loss. I gotta say,
okay.
getting the vibe from the fans out there and the way the stadium was for 95% of the game, it was bad vibes down there at Empower Field at Mile High. And the Broncos do come away 1-1. They're not the bottom of the division, unlike the dreadful Las Vegas Raiders, who are 0-2. Broncos get what I thought was a must-win, but it just doesn't feel like it.
Tied for fourth in the AFC.
There you
Can't
go.
complain about that right now. Tied for fourth in the AFC.
So there's a lot to unpack here. And Zach, you kind of tapped into your feelings on that, which is it felt like a loss. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that way because I had this heavy burden hanging over me as the Broncos are losing 6-9 and seemingly everything's going wrong. Russell Wilson throws a dime to Cortland Sutton over the middle and he drops it. And it pops into another guy's hands. You have a strip sack that goes right to them. I'm like, there's no fucking way that this is going to happen again. And that is now gone. So I personally feel a lot better than I would feel if this was a loss. If this was a loss right now, we wouldn't be smiling. We wouldn't be joking. A win is a winner's lounge. We would be in meltdown city. Mm-hmm. Now, there are factions of the fan base that are still melting down.
A lot.
And we're going to talk about why they have a reason to. Yeah. And I think we can also talk about why maybe it's not time to go totally off the rails. But for me, I feel exponentially better than if this was a loss. It just happens to be that I don't feel great. I just don't feel terrible.
Well, yeah, and certainly it doesn't feel like a loss because if the Broncos had lost this game, their season was over. Not to be overly dramatic 2 weeks into the season.
If they lost looking like that,
but
yeah.
It would have been over if Davis Mills, with a minute left, drives the team down the field, gets a touchdown, goes for 2 and wins, and the Broncos for a second straight week lose to 1 point by one of the worst teams in the NFL. Then it would just be awful. So the season's not over. The Broncos saved the season in week 2. But the questions that are out there, and so many questions that we had coming into this game, not only weren't answered, but were just the problems were just added to in a very concerning fashion.
The play calling was weird last week in a way that you looked at and was like, there were some mistakes there. Not really sure what he was thinking. Like, oh, it's a lot of shotgun runs close to the goal line. This week, you're thinking, wait, this is just how this is going to go. Like these weird play calls, all that sort of stuff, like this is concerning now. This is something that Nathaniel Hackett obviously needs to grow through and learn from and figure out what works and figure out what doesn't. And it's a process. You know, you want a creative offensive coach. You got creative. Now you just need to be able to rein that back in a bit. And that's, I mean, then you get to the penalties, then you get to all that stuff.
And I think you're right to an extent for sure. The problem for me is that execution was the biggest issue for me today, not play calls or coaching, at least from an offensive standpoint. There is a lot of missed opportunities that were left out there on the field by the players. Now, that doesn't mean that the play calling was good or great or anything like that. In fact, I thought it was incredible last week with a couple blips here and there, and it was dreadful today, or at least bordering on it. But I still felt like it was a player issue on most situations. I mean, the Andrew Beck option in an that had Noah Fant end around written all over. It's the same vibes.
You get one of your slowest weapons on offense running.
He's done it before,
north
though.
and south
They've run that exact play before. Actually, that was out of pistol, and it worked. The last time they did it, that one looked so bad.
Wait, when did they do it?
With Drew Lock against the Lions.
Okay, this is completely different.
I know. I'm just saying. It's like there's clearly something about Andrew Beck. I don't know if he played quarterback in high school or option or whatever.
It's a terrible play.
Okay,
call.
What I'm
here's
just
what I'll
saying
say.
is the reason that
It looks
he's
like
running.
he's going slow motion.
I know.
North and south, not east and west.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was bad.
I could get behind it. I like the idea.
Not in
no,
that
it's just like in 3rd and 1 when you're running the ball so well, and then like
in
you're
that
throwing
situation too.
exactly. The situation is what I really hate. If it's 2nd and 2 and you want to pull that out,
What
and
I'm just
everything
saying
you're
is-
doing is working, go right ahead.
There's got to be a reason why Andrew Beck has now run this play twice in his career. I think he must have been an option quarterback or something in high school, and they trust him to make that read. That being said, bad play call, bad spot.
Yep.
And it always looks bad when it doesn't work, but it especially looks bad when it doesn't work and other things were working. And I think what we saw a little bit of today is the pressure of letting Russ cook
Yes.
getting in the way of just going and winning a football game where you are dominating in the front. And at one point, you look up, and the Broncos are averaging 7 yards a carry, and Russ is like 6 for 18,
Yep.
and they've carried the ball, like 10 times or something like that, maybe a little more. But that was, I think, a really glaring today, which was, okay, well, yeah, I know that's working, but we'll always have that to fall back on. Let's try to get Russ going. Let's try to get him heated up. And, you know, he had a couple, like, stretches where it was like, oh, Russ is about to get hot here. And it just felt like he wasn't able to string things together. But I did feel like, you know, like Tyree Cleveland dropping that one across the middle. There was another, Albert O has a big drop on an easy catch, which those things, when combined together, can just entirely destroy your rhythm. Here's what I'll say. If I had told you coming into the game, no Josie Jewell, no Justin Simmons, no Pat Surtain, no Jerry Jeudy, but they win, do you take it or do you say I still want style points?
Still style points. I mean,
Okay.
you're talking about the Houston Texans here. If we're talking about the Raiders, the Chargers, obviously the Chiefs, if we're talking about average teams in the NFL, kind of why I start with the Raiders there, then you're taking it, and it's an ugly one. They grinded out 16-9. We're talking about, look at the defense. Back-to-back weeks of really good performances, held the Texans to about 250 yards. But the thing with the offense is last week we fell back and said they had 430 yards of offense. They were moving the ball left and right, just couldn't execute in the red zone. How often are these red zone issues actually going to happen? It's not often that those things are going to happen now. Where they didn't get 2 fumbles in the red zone, 0 for 2 in the red zone. Nathaniel Hackett completely outthought himself in the red zone. I believe
He steered too hard back into the swerve.
I believe exactly. I believe Russ was 0 for 5 within 5 yards of the end zone. So you're saying play calling was off where it matters most. Russ was off where it matters most, and obviously the running game wasn't there when it mattered most. And when it mattered most is when it's going to matter the most when you play average teams. So the fact that we're coming away saying the Broncos had, I think, 340 yards of offense, 16 points. This is a really bad offensive performance today.
It's funny because it's the same number.
430 last week.
No,
Yeah,
I'm saying points.
Oh, points. It is,
points.
isn't it?
But last week
Exact
should have been.
Yeah.
Last week,
I know.
points-wise,
It's
is
just
concerning.
It's just crazy how football works. You can have a beautiful 16 points and an ugly 16 points. The beautiful one got you an L, and the ugly one got you a win. It's just crazy. It's a crazy game.
I would say hopeful 16 points was last week, not necessarily beautiful.
Well, it was just the offense was pretty last week. Like things were working, and what I noticed happened today is early on in the game, the Broncos almost exclusively passed the ball off of play action, and the Texans just started saying, just blitz upfield, rush upfield, and blitz is the wrong word, but crash is the better word. Just crash upfield and don't allow Russ to get out of the pocket off play action, and that created some big issues for them. And the Broncos never had a counter to that. In fact, they kept trying it late in the game. It resulted in that big Russell Wilson sack. It's just like, this is clearly not working. They've decided, we're not letting that play happen. We're not letting you get to that backside. And I was worried to see that they didn't have a good counter for that, because I was talking on the watch long and I was like, okay, if they're going to crash that way, then just run off tackle. they're giving you that. They're like allowing you to have that hole. Just shoot it all day long until they start, staying home a little bit more. But I didn't like the way that they attacked that, and I did feel like it was because they wanted to keep throwing the ball, and I'm not sure why, other than they wanted to let Russ cook, which is weird, especially when Jerry Jeudy went out. Because as soon as Jerry Jeudy went out, it was just defeating when you watch them line up. It's like, okay, so it's Cortland, Kendall Hinton, and Tyree Cleveland.
And then they kept throwing.
Yeah, it's what I mean. That's what I mean. So it's like, what are you doing here?
You had two big plays from those guys. You had Kendall Hinton come up with the big catch, and you had Tyree Cleveland come up with the big catch. But that was it. There were no other big plays.
I think Tyree had two on that drive. But still.
There was nothing else, though.
Yep.
I mean, that was it. It's not like these guys were like, oh, my God, did we just find a diamond in the rough? No, you're playing with backup receivers. So what are you doing? Especially when Javonte Williams for the game. For most of the first half, he's averaging 7 yards per carry. He ends the game 5 yards per carry. He doesn't fumble throughout the game, and you only hand the ball off to him 15 times. And that was not because he was getting 11 catches. In fact, he didn't do anything in the passing game today. It was just the game flow was so off, and that just gives me concern moving forward. Is just, okay, last week I was totally okay writing things off with rookie mistakes from a head coach and new offense. It still is early, only in week 2, so I'm not saying smash the panic button, the season's over, but now I am starting to say, oh shoot, is there going to be learning from this, or is this what we get now? And I think that's why people, especially in the stadium and on Twitter, I should say, were freaking out. I think it was the realization that, are these rookie mistakes, or are these who this coaching staff is?
Yep, and we saw a poorly coached team again today. That's what we saw, and that doesn't mean they're going to stay poorly coached, but everything about it. I mean, obviously the penalties factor into that. That was the only team in the league that had 100 penalty yards last week. Guess what? They did again this week. Poorly coached. You look at the play calls. You look at the fact that they're just feeding Russell Wilson the ball when they're in the red zone, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it was the first down from the 6. They throw on first down, and you're just like, well, what the hell was that when you're running this well? Then they handed
off. One that was a touchdown that got called back?
No, the one to Javonte at the pylon, and then they handed off.
Yeah.
They handed off on the next play. Picks up 5 yards. You got 3rd and 1 from the 1. It's like, why don't you just run the ball on first down?
Yeah.
Like, you have one thing that's working right now. Oh, Tyree Cleveland dropped a ball. Oh, no, I feel bad. No, that's what he does. Like, that's what you should expect when you throw to these guys. Like, just all of that was so mind-boggling that it is concerning. And I think he's probably going to grow through it. I think he's going to learn. But right now, that's what they have to fight through.
Right.
Yeah, and that's my biggest pushback on the freak out that I'm seeing today on Twitter is head coach is one of the only positions that we just don't give any grace to. If Nathaniel Hackett was a rookie quarterback and he was making big mistakes in big moments in his first 2 games, we would be saying, yeah, this is just what you expect.
Didn't see the linebacker sitting in the middle of the field.
Right, yeah, exactly. He'll learn from that. He'll watch the tape and learn from it. For whatever reason, we don't do that for rookie coaches, and I say we as football fans at large. And I think that's where I'm pushing back. I am going to give him that grace and say, dude's pressed a lot of wrong buttons in these first 2 games. Yeah. He strikes me as the person who will learn from them and not say, yeah, that's just who we are. Today it just didn't work. He's going to say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Where did we go wrong today? I think where we went wrong was by continuing to be married to the passing game when we were running out Cortland Sutton, Tyree Cleveland, and Kendall Hinton. And, a little bit of Montrell Washington mixed in. But I think when he looks back on this game, and maybe he'll say it tomorrow. He admitted he was wrong this week. Maybe he'll say it tomorrow. I was wrong to not run the ball more. And that is the biggest takeaway that I have from this. And it's the biggest thing that I'm going to push back on. And I'm going to say, hey, let's give them a little bit of break because they're 1-1. If they're 0-2, I wouldn't be doing that. But they did win today. They have another week ahead of them to go and figure out what went wrong and how do they get better. And, if all goes well, Nathaniel Hackett's going to be here a long time. Even if all goes terrible, Nathaniel Hackett's going to be here for at least 32 games.
And so let me give some pushback to that because I know
34.
there's some people that also see the other side where, Ryan, it's not just play calling. that wasn't great today. It was coaching, having the team prepared. 13 penalties to go on top of 12 penalties last week. 25 penalties.
Can I ask you, what do you do to stop that?
Better coaching, and that's what they'll say. You have to have your team prepared. And Ryan, to add on to that, delay of games, one of the most embarrassing things ever
the
was
Cardinals,
what happened.
The Cardinals got a delay of game on the 2-point conversion to tie the game at the very end. They scored a touchdown with 0 seconds on the clock. They lined up for the 2-point conversion. They got a delay of game.
But that doesn't
I'm not excusing. I'm just saying that's even worse than
It's
anything.
Cliff Kingsbury, yeah.
The Broncos had to have the crowd count down the play clock.
Good job, crowd.
That was extreme. No, that's embarrassing, Ryan. That is one of the most embarrassing things that I've seen.
I thought it was great. I appreciated it.
It was the crowd helping them, but at the exact same time mocking their own team.
Them.
There were more boos in the stadium today than I've ever heard. With Vic Fangio as a head coach, with Trevor Siemian at quarterback, with Drew Lock at quarterback, with all the mistakes, more booing than I've ever heard in that stadium. Ryan, I'm trying to represent the people that are embarrassed at what happened with the Broncos today, and some people in the comment section are really mad at me. Some people are saying, Zach, you're spot on. And I'm just trying to represent those people, because it's not just bad play calling on the offensive side. It's extremely embarrassing play at sometimes. It's bad coaching. It's bad game management. The Broncos burned all 3 timeouts with 7 minutes left in the game, and a close game.
The last one they burned,
that was wild.
They didn't have a returner on the field for a punt and had to call a timeout.
Not just that, but then you have your base defense on the field for the punt. You don't have Montre Washington back. What are we doing here? I mean, it is, Ryan, and this is what I saw today more than anything else. Is from a national media perspective, I've never seen national media members poke fun at the Broncos more than they did. Again, we've seen Vic Fangio, Vance Joseph. We've seen so many questionable things. There was so much embarrassment.
The Broncos are relevant now, so that's going to happen. And they also have Russell Wilson, which, for whatever reason, people want. They want to hate Russell Wilson, and I guess more so, Russell Wilson being on the Broncos makes them a target. It puts them under the microscope. And Nathaniel Hackett had some embarrassing moments today. And so, of course, people are going to take their shots. But what I will say is, first of all, to the crowd, I thought that was, fantastic. It's obviously, it should never have to happen, but it was a great way of the crowd to be like,
home field advantage.
Hey, you need our help? We got you. And it's like a Bronx cheer type of thing where it's sarcastic in nature.
Yeah.
And also helpful.
And it helped.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
I kind of loved it. So to me, round of applause to the crowd for doing that. I thought it was funny and helpful at the same time. You cannot have this stuff continue to happen. The 13 penalties, that's like Raiders shit. That's the teams that do that. And when you're the Broncos, you're supposed to be like the clean team that gets it right. And then you laugh at the Raiders because they're the penalty-ridden team, and they're doing their sack dance in the backfield while you're up to the line, snap it, you get the offsides. You're that team. You're supposed to be that team. I don't know how coaches coach penalties out of players. I feel like it might be one of their hardest jobs. But clearly, this coaching staff doesn't either. And I hearken myself back to when this coaching staff was hired, and we looked at the utter and complete lack of experience that was on it, and we said, this is probably going to rear its head in some way or another. We just don't know what it is yet. We're clearly seeing that here in the first couple weeks of the season. I can only look at what we have going on here. Like, we close the bar down, we remodel the whole thing, and then we get it running. And only once it's open and going do you start to notice, oh, we didn't get this going, or we need to make sure we streamline this. Today at the tailgate, we had more people than we've ever had at the tailgate. We learned a lot of things right then and there of like, okay, we need to speed this up. We need to streamline that. So that's what these guys are going through because they've never gone through it before. That doesn't excuse it. But it tells me they have to learn. They got to take these experiences and learn.
Now you have to heat it up in a microwave because you now have a good team coming into town who we're going to talk about in a second. But this team that the Broncos are playing next week now resembles the NFC Championship team that was in the NFC Championship last week. Now, you played a team without a quarterback last week in Russell Wilson, or in the Seattle Seahawks because they don't have Russell Wilson. And this week, you played a team that may have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You're not playing them next week. So all of these mistakes that you've had, you just have to microwave. And so why I'm now more scared than I was last week, I said exactly what you're saying, Ryan. I'm saying, what did you expect? There were going to be mistakes. Now it's how you learn from them. This past week, didn't really learn from it. Now they really have to learn from it in a jiffy because they do have Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And they are a team that should be competing this year. And so that leeway that we've talked about and that probably does need to be given to the coaching staff, it naturally shortens that leeway because you do have a team that should be contending for the playoffs right now.
2 things. First, 25 penalties in 2 games. Second most in the NFL is 17.
Unbelievable.
Second thing, I wish we would have learned in the preseason that the offensive line has a false start problem. You know, it's those sorts of things
Or
where
it's
it's like,
delay a game problem.
yeah, like you got to iron out the kinks. There's a kink or two that could have shown up on tape right away.
Well, and it's makes sense. They have no live experience with Russell Wilson's hard count.
Although
They're falling for their own hard counts.
I do think we are to the point where we can no longer blame these things on not playing in the preseason. I was for that for even the first game. I didn't say anything. Although the Broncos wouldn't have played, their starters wouldn't have played the equivalent of a full game in the preseason. Now we're 2 full games into this, and we're still seeing these mistakes happen in the 4th quarter of this game. So I can no longer give them that excuse anymore. Oh, they didn't play in the preseason. No, it's been 8 quarters now. The Broncos offense didn't score a touchdown from the 2nd quarter of week 1 till the, 3rd or 4th quarter of this week. The offense was really, really slow there. And I'm concerned to add to the penalties thing, Hank. The Broncos, over 200 penalty yards. It's the most they've had in back-to-back games since 2003.
Yeah.
2003, think about that. It's been 20 years since they've had these 2 bad of penalty games. And it just happens to be, or one of the reasons is because it's a new coaching staff.
Totally.
The good news is,
How do you get, like, the team didn't change that much. The players who are on the field didn't change that much. So how did they get so much worse at following the rules?
maybe too much is being given on their plate, and they have to think too much. I'm not sure, but the fact that we're seeing delay of game penalties, again, we're seeing a team not have their kick returner out on the field.
So I have to assume what happened there was they expected the Texans to go for it, and so they ran out the defense.
But the Texans had their punting team on the field.
Super
so
weird.
that has to be coaching.
Yes.
And
Well, that's just like whoever told them to go out there.
which is coaching though.
Right, no,
I mean,
totally.
It's not a linebacker.
Of course. It's I don't know if it was Evero or Hackett. Someone said, hey, nickel or whatever defense they ran out there.
Right. Exactly. And, I mean, you have Cortland Sutton getting unnecessary roughness penalties called. You have Melvin Gordon.
Behind
with
the play.
chop blocks. You have Melvin Gordon holding. You have Andrew Beck having 2 penalties on special teams. I mean, we're talking offense. We're talking defense. We're talking special teams.
Yep.
And it's great that they got the win. Because, like I said, you think my freak out is big now. Oh, my goodness. Season would be over. It's good that they escaped this with the win. There were some positives. The running game, just give the ball to Javonte Williams, and good things happen. Maybe don't do it out of shotgun when you're calling an audible at the 1-yard line, but otherwise, Javonte Williams is a damn good running back. Cortland Sutton was actually our DraftKings king of the game. Had 122 receiving yards, 7 catches. When Jeudy went out of the game, Cortland Sutton looked like a beast, and he had to. Because Russell Wilson did have a good pass to Tyreek Cleveland, maybe 2, and he did hit Kendall Hinton on 1, but that was it. I mean, it was either Javonte Williams running the ball, or it was Cortland Sutton catching a pass from Russell Wilson. Cortland Sutton, 122 receiving yards, also 52 yards on drawing defensive penalties. He out almost 200 yards accounted for on the day. The Broncos don't win this game without him, and when I say that, there was also a negative. He had a pass in his hands in the middle of the field that the defender just took right out of. That was not it. Maybe I didn't see the right angle. That was not Russell Wilson's fault.
No, not
it. Hit Cortland Sutton in the hand. So even our king of the game, in a win, gave up an interception.
And on top of that, I mean, the unnecessary roughness, you touched on it, but like that's just one of those plays that you look at and he's blocking the guy and he's
Is it Stingley?
Yeah, they're in the paint. Like, there's on the paint, the white paint on the sideline, and he's just pushing him back 10 yards, having the time of his life. And you're just like, oh, this is incredible. A great blocking receiver. Like, Imagine if one of Bill Belichick's receivers did that. Like, Bill Belichick's out there saying, what the F, you're not playing anymore, blah, 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 like, you can't be doing that stuff. And that's kind of energy. But to Courtland Sutton, great game. Great from Courtland Sutton. I said to you, as soon as Jerry went down, like, okay, this is where every passing play is now. Okay, Russ, off coverage, it's a comeback, or it's a slant. Oh, they're pressing. We're going deep.
Yep.
That's
Pretty
every
much did do that.
single play. And that's exactly what they did. 7 catches, 122 yards. It worked. Cortland was that guy. And we should add, drew 2 pass interferences and a hold, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it
Was
could
he
have been
the-
200
Yep.
and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And, a lot of could have been in the last 2 weeks. But he really killed it. I couldn't believe it. I've tweeted out, because Cortland started the game off like that. And I tweeted out, Courtland Sutton is eating Derek Stingley alive. And, Texans fans were, pushing back on that. They're like, no, he's not. Take it back. I was like, no. Biggest play of the game is Courtland Sutton. Come back on Derek Stingley. Longest play of the game is Courtland Sutton. Fader out on Stingley. He ate him up. He took a rookie corner. And that's clearly something they identified in film this week. And they said, Courtland, we like this matchup. Go win it. And he sure did. And I think he was enjoying himself a little bit too much and just jawing off a little bit too much, wanting to, pile drive Derek Stingley. That cost him 15 yards. Cannot happen. And then, is it fair for me to say, where he caught that ball, you just have to get your toe down?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Courtland Sutton is on track to take that next step in his career where you're not talking about, oh, well, he did have a Pro Bowl year, but he was a 17th leading receiver. Is he really a Pro Bowler? And those are the conversations that were happening. Is he a 1,000-yard guy? No, Courtland Sutton, with Russell Wilson in town, Nathaniel Hackett clearly wanting to let Russ cook. Even when Russ isn't doing well, he still throws 31 passes in a game. Courtland Sutton has the opportunity to become a superstar, and you need to make those plays. And especially if Jerry Jeudy, the Broncos, are without him, it's just going to be more what we saw in this passing game where it's Courtland Sutton. Check down to Alberto. Courtland Sutton. And he's going to have to come up with those massive plays. He can't be dropping balls. He can't be bobbling balls that turn into interceptions. He needs to get his foot down in the end zone. It seems like everyone has had an opportunity to score a touchdown now. And you're talking about Jerry Jeudy on a great play, who did it in the second quarter against the Seahawks. And you're talking about Eric Saubert coming up with a touchdown as well. You're talking about so many other guys missing out in the pass and in the running game. Courtland Sutton's a guy that can't miss out anymore. He's got to get that toe down.
Yeah, the numbers are crazy. 7 catches for Courtland, 2 for Tyree Cleveland, 1 for Saubert, 1 for Hinton, 1 for Jeudy, 1 for Javonte, 1 for Melvin, and then 0 for Alberto, which is a little weird, especially considering he was probably the second best. He should be the second best receiving option on the field once Jerry goes off, but maybe that's not the case. Last thing I want to say here in our opening segment is that the one thing that I will not stand for is people not agreeing that the defense was great today. They gave up 9 points in an NFL game and won the team the game because of that and made big plays in big moments. So I tweeted out, what a performance from the defense. And I have all these people being like, what did they do? And I'm like, I don't know, simply just won you the game.
Yeah, and without a great defensive performance, again, the Broncos don't stand a chance here. But Ryan, what I will give to those people is going against the Seahawks with Geno Smith and Davis Mills-led Texans. That's what they should do.
Without your 2 best players.
It's not taking away anything from them, but it's what they should do. And we still haven't seen the game-changing plays that actually allow the offense to score. No, and these are things
bad bounces.
How long are we going to have those bad bounces?
I don't know. They're 0 for 6 on fumbles right now.
And I will add, I'm not sure you can ever say
1 for 7.
Holding a team under 10 points is what they should do. I think any NFL team, if you're holding them under 10, that's a good performance.
The Texans last year averaged 10 points on the road. So yeah, that's who the Houston Texans are.
They're different.
That's also last year.
9 to 10.
They're
points.
a little different this year.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're solid. They're going to win 6-7 games, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. Right now they're 0-1-1.
That's true.
But I think people
Against 2 teams that everyone thought were playoff teams.
You think the Colts are a playoff team?
I said thought.
Yeah, but you think now
No.
that we have that information? Of course not.
I think the
By
Jags
way,
might be.
Hank and I looking pretty good on our
yeah?
pizza bet. With
1-1?
Absolutely, yeah, 1-1 against
Oh,
the
yeah.
Colts. 0-1-1. And I actually
You're
do
half game up.
I do have exactly. There we go.
Love it.
I do have some good news. I think when it comes to the Broncos pass game. But first, I got to tell you about
I
the.
wasn't done.
Yeah.
You were not missing your 2 best players on defense, and you held them to 9 points. That is a commendable performance 10 times out of 10.
And what went wrong defensively? Deep middle of the field. Like, there was that gap in the cover 3. There's twice on that last drive. They hit that same spot a couple times before. Just those, 15-yard gains. You're like, oh, that was actually a pretty decent play. That changed momentum.
234 yards and 9 points without your 2 best players.
It's
And
really,
yeah,
it's really good, but I
yeah.
feel like you're crowning them, and I'm
No,
saying there's
no,
a
no.
long way to go before
I'm
we're
just
crowning
saying they
them.
absolutely deserved a great pat on the back today.
But
Absolutely.
where
I
the
agree.
Texans had good plays, that's where Justin Simmons is going to be when he comes back.
He's out for 3 more games though.
Oh, yeah,
And
totally.
that's
But when
just the
he comes
reality.
back, that's your one leaky little spot that kind of was a problem. That's
I'm
going to be
just saying-
settled with
that
Justin
leaky
Simmons.
spot last week where they gave up 2 touchdowns? Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
we're talking about
when
today.
They had Justin Simmons?
Today.
No, I'm just
Hold
saying.
on.
I'm
Yeah.
saying it feels like there's just a lot of excuses out there. I just want to make sure that
They
we're on
won.
the same
I'm not
page.
making excuses. I'm
Excuses
literally
for the
saying
win.
that no one's in the mood to give credit to anything. The defense deserves credit today.
Yes.
And I
yes.
think the people
Yes.
who are tweeting at me saying they didn't do shit are crazy.
The defense was very good.
They
Yes.
held them
The
9 points
defense-
and won you the game.
The defense was great.
And
Without the defense,
had
the
2 strip
Broncos
sacks.
don't win.
And gosh dang it. So now I guess they're 1 for 7. There have been 7 fumbles in the 2 games from both sides for the Denver Broncos. They recovered 1 of them. It was the
Yep.
Randy Gregory I'm stronger than you DK Metcalf moment.
And that was great. And what's also great.
3 forced fumbles in 2 weeks for Randy Gregory.
What's also great is the Hootenanny going on over at Breckenridge Brewery at their farmhouse at Littleton. They have such a great setup to be holding big events like the Hootenanny. It is October 8th and 9th, and you can get tickets over at events.ceta.com/hootenanny22, or you can get them at the Breck Brew website. That is the Hootenanny going on October 8th and 9th. It is going to be so much fun. They're going to have a concert there again. They're going to have so many delicious Breck beers. And you also got to grab your Breck beers here at the DNVR when you're watching the games, especially Broncos are still in this. And I got to tell you, next Sunday is going to be awesome over at the DNVR bar.
That's going to be incredible. That's going to be so much fun. I'm so fired up. Drink some athletic greens. They're good for you. They have minerals and vitamins.
My body needs athletic greens so
Most
bad
important,
right
you know whose body needs athletic greens?
now. Whose?
Nathaniel Hackett, because it is time to adapt. He needs all the adaptogens. He needs to learn about lining up under center when you're inside the 10. He needs to learn about just the basic principles of the option, which is say, hey, there's the guy we're going to read. Pitch it if he's there. Don't pitch it if he's there. Instead, it's, hey, we're just going to have chaos all over the field. Pitch it if you want. And you're also your tight end. But yeah, if Nathaniel Hackett
I
needs
think
to adapt.
he knows the principles of the option.
Yeah. I don't know how that would have. It's just chaos over there, though. There's no way you're saying, like, hey, Andrew Beck, here's the guy you're going to be reading. Like, anybody could be anywhere when you're just all over the field like that. Oh, my God. I hate it. But, athletic greens. It'll help you go to the gym. It'll give you energy in the morning.
Does
It will
do
help
that.
you
Clears
be
out the brain
stronger
fog.
after. The gut health.
Yep.
Mostly the adaptogens. That's a big thing. And if you sign up and you use the code DNVR, then you will be getting 5 free travel packs and a year's supply of immune supporting vitamin D. And once again, as I said, that's athleticgreens.com/Broncos.
Yeah.
Not the code DNVR. I'm sure
Sergi-
somebody's going to yell at me.
Sergio here in the comments saying the vibes are immaculate at the DMVR bar visiting from South Texas.
Oh, I didn't even
Yes.
realize that the
bus
bus
is back.
Yeah, the bus just got back. I'm sure they're enjoying Sunday Night Football down there. Looks like a close game so far. So that's good. And also, I just want to let you guys know next week, we had our biggest tailgate ever this week. Mm-hmm. It's going to be bigger next week.
Absolutely.
Starting at 1 p.m., leading all the way up to the game at 6:20. Oh, God, I can't wait. It's going to be so sick.
Mm-hmm.
And today was awesome. Met so many great people out there today. Couple from Wales who's getting married at the stadium this week.
You met some
love
Welshmen?
it.
So congratulations
So cool.
to them.
Congrats.
We had our guys who came down from New York. Really cool dudes. We had people come. There was one of our members' 21st birthday. What did he want to do?
Wow.
He wanted to come to the DNVR
Love
bar and
it.
go to the tailgate.
I love it.
We had Salt Lake in the house. I mean,
Australia.
Wyoming, Australia. You can just go down the list. It was so cool to meet everyone.
Oklahoma.
And yes, it's awesome. So check out the tailgate. Remember, if you're a member, go to thednvr.com. Go to the tailgate tab. You will get a much better deal on the tailgate.
Yes.
Tickets are already selling, and make sure you take advantage of the bus. $10 round trip.
Incredible.
Yep.
Is just insane.
Incredible. It is absolutely insane. And I said there was potentially some good news for the Broncos passing game. According to Mike Kliss, x-rays on Jerry Jeudy's ribs. It was not his shoulder, as we previously thought. His ribs came back negative. So more tests tomorrow to determine the severity of the injury, what the actual injury is. But some good initial news because, as we said, you don't really want one wide receiving option that you have to go to over and over and over again. Jerry Jeudy out there is really going to help Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, 14 of 31 today. Pat Surtain, on a quick injury update, he has a shoulder injury. We don't know the extent or what that is.
Did we even see the play? They didn't show it on the
I haven't
broadcast.
seen it. No.
No, I just saw it happen live. But obviously, two crucial guys for the Broncos' success moving forward. Now we're talking about the Broncos not having Justin Simmons. Of course, the guys, Greg Dulcich, some lower guys, but we're talking about the Broncos not having potentially 3 of their best 5 players.
I'll just say this, and I posed the question to you earlier. I didn't get to answer my own question, but I said if I told you Justin Simmons, Josie Jewell, Jerry Jeudy, and Pat Surtain didn't play against the Texans, would you just take the win or do you want the style points? I'll take the win because to me, if you look at this roster without those guys, it ain't good. It's Russell Wilson and Javonte Williams and Cortland Sutton and then, some solid players across the board.
And Quinn Miners, too.
And Quinn Miners,
Second
too.
best lineman at worst.
So, for me, this is not a good team without those players.
But you have Russell Wilson going up against Davis Mills and the Houston Texans. You should be able to cover a 10-point spread without those guys.
No, not without those guys.
Absolutely.
The spread was set with those guys.
No, the spread was set without Justin Simmons. It was, and you did have Pat Surtain for half the game.
Yep. And without him, you're just not very good. Without all of those guys.
Then there's a big problem because the Broncos may not have any of those guys next week, and we don't know how long for. I expect
they will lose if they don't have those guys.
Okay, well, that's very bad news. Then that's the biggest question mark coming out of this game.
Totally.
Is these guys, and how much does it change? Because we saw Russell Wilson not look good at all in the game today, except for, he had a fantastic pass. That touchdown that he had to Salbert was fantastic. It was a perfectly thrown ball. It was the classic Russ touch moon ball pass. It just falls right where it has to. That was great. Other than that, it was just really concerning. Not all because of Russell Wilson. He had some key drops as well, but it was very clear, and that's what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do. They're going to say, you beat us with anyone but Cortland Sutton, and if you can do that, props to you. But if you don't have Jerry Jeudy, that's going to be huge.
Yep. And it is. And you're just going to have to be able to run the ball. Like, straight
and
up.
You're going to have to stick and commit to running.
And we're talking about running the ball on, Eric
great
Armstead
front.
and Nick Bosa and
Yep,
Javon Kinlaw is good now. Drake Jackson, Fred Warner. Like that's a
Broncos
tough
have
place
DJ
to
Jones.
Yeah.
Stole him from him.
Yeah. That's going to be a struggle. We got a whole week to talk about it. But let's kind of go through the key moments here. And just kind of say, how did we get to this spot?
Yep.
And I think, we can work in chronological order if you guys want.
Absolutely. So, of course, the game started off. Broncos defense picked up right where it left off. Forced a 3-and-out to start the game. You're feeling, man, this is good. This is exactly what the Broncos needed. The Broncos get the ball at halftime. Now they get the ball to start the game. Broncos get it. And what do on the very first play? Hand off to Javonte Williams for 9 yards. You're like, oh, baby, here we go. And then an Alberto drop pass killed the drive as the Broncos got into midfield. Broncos end up punting.
By the way, it's 3rd and 11 at the Houston 48. Russell does throw short of the sticks.
Yep.
It's Alberto coming on a crossing route. He catches that ball. He's one-on-one between him and the sticks with Derek Stingley. Even if he gets him down, you're probably going for that because you're talking you're inside the 40. And so you just can't do that.
Yep.
Can't do it.
But Again, that's not a huge surprise.
No?
Then the Texans have the ball, and they get 1 first down, and Randy Gregory on 3rd and 1. Some reason the Texans decided to leave Randy Gregory unblocked. Randy Gregory flies into the backfield, gets, I believe, Pierce fell down. He taps him down there, has him. Could have been a face call or face mask penalty as Randy had his face mask. But again, the Broncos defense comes up with another stop, forces the Texans to punt quickly.
Yeah, I wonder what the rule is on that. Technically, he was down. The play was over the second Randy Gregory made any contact with him. So, like, can you get a face mask after the play?
After the play.
Yeah,
face
because
mask.
the play ended with the face mask, though.
But
Because
the
I
play
think
was
he touched
over because he touched him when he was down.
But I think he touched his face mask first.
You have to grab
like-
for it to be a
Yeah.
penalty. You can touch.
I don't know. I just don't know what the rule is. Like,
Yeah.
can you, if let's just say you push a guy out of
I'm
bounds.
not trying to be
Yeah.
hard on Randy.
No,
I'm just saying.
I just
Yeah.
want to know, like, a guy runs out of bounds and, like, 3 yards out, you, like, accidentally grab his face mask. Like, can they throw a flag on that? I don't
Probably
know.
unnecessary roughness, yeah.
There's
potentially.
something.
Then the Broncos get the ball, and they get the first score of the game, but you still had some things that you're like, oh, no, it could have been a touchdown. How about the play to Montrell Washington, where he is just he breaks a tackle 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage on a reverse, and then he takes off. Melvin Gordon called for a holding, so the play comes back. I
And
mentioned
then
it
That one was
such an
incredible.
unnecessary holding.
Oh, so
It
and
was
that was
kind of a
way
bad call.
down the field, and just don't do that. It's
Yep.
the Domata Peko play against the
Totally.
Ravens. It's like, what are we doing here?
Give a guy a good shove. Like, you don't even have to engage that block.
Incredible play design, though. Boone coming in motion one way, fake the jet sweep, fake the handoff up the middle to Gordon, and then hand it off to Washington going back the other way.
He got the ball like 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage and almost went down.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like about them. But
Yep. And
So
then,
good.
And then, speaking of creativity, you have Javonte Williams pass the ball to Russell Wilson, who then passes it to Jerry Jeudy, and that's when Jerry
smacked.
got hurt. And it was very concerning. He was down. Cortland was calling for guys right away. Nathaniel Hackett comes out and is looking at him. And then just, I was like, I thought Jerry was going to be okay because as Jeudy stood up, Nathaniel just taps him in the ribs. And I was like, oh, that's a good sign. Maybe the wrong place to tap him. But I digress. We're seeing creativity, though, at least, right? And
Yes.
the Broncos are moving the ball. They're at least in field goal range. And then we see Russell Wilson hit Cortland Sutton on a great back shoulder throw. Cortland gets 2 feet. Oh, he only got 1 foot in. Broncos end up settling for a field goal.
Yep.
yeah, I didn't like going back to the exact same play the next play. I wanted to set it up
Yeah.
and then come in on the slant.
Yes.
That's what I was saying. I was like, oh, perfect. Fake the back shoulder fade, come inside, you'll be
Yep.
wide open.
And Stingley
Yep.
was all over it.
Yeah, of course he was
because
all
of
over the back shoulder fade.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Especially because he knows in his head, I just got beat on that. Why would they do anything else?
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
say right before that play, I told Zach, like, you got to go back to court. Like,
Yes,
you
you go
do
back to
have to go
court.
back to
They
court.
I
ran-
said same play, I think.
I
No,
did
they
say
did.
same
And I
play.
said no.
I think I threw out a slant too, but I did definitely say same play.
They ran same exact formation, same everything.
Yeah.
I thought this is a perfect opportunity to trick them.
And I think this was just Nathaniel Hackett getting into his head after last
Yes.
week's struggles in
Oh,
the red zone.
absolutely.
Let's do something different. How about I just let Russ cook? And then you do the same thing again on 3rd down. Not the same thing, but you let Russ throw it, and you're not able to get it then either.
Yeah, that was when I knew that today wasn't going to be easy.
Right. Yeah.
Right then and there, I was like, so we're doing this again.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Texans respond with a field goal. They brought out Jeff Driscoll on that drive to run for a first down. That just kind of felt like
right.
damn.
Broncos 3rd and 10 at the 27 get a too many men on the field penalty.
Yikes.
Didn't actually affect them because they stopped them on 3rd and 5, but good Lord.
And they actually did just legitimately have 12 guys on the field. Like, it wasn't even like a substitution error. Nope, 12 guys on the field.
Singleton or PJ Locke was wrong.
Would have liked the timeout there, and then they did it a bunch in the second half.
Yep, and on that drive, Alex Singleton had a great pass breakup on what could have been
Saved
a
a
touchdown.
touchdown.
Potentially Baron Browning was getting excellent pressure on that drive coming from the edge. I was like, man, Bradley
ended
Chubb's
the
having a
drive.
great series. And I'm like, wait, damn, that's Baron Browning. So you love to see that pressure come in waves and actually not look like a drop-off. So I really like seeing that. But the Texans settle for a field goal. Broncos get the ball back, and you have Russell Wilson get sacked. On a 3rd and 16, Russell checks it down to Melvin Gordon for a gain of 6, and it was punt again. So, Ryan, that's a couple of times now we've talked about 3rd and long, and it's not necessarily Russell Wilson's fault or Nathaniel Hackett's fault, but when you get in 3rd and long,
Yeah.
regardless of who your quarterback is, you're probably going to throw short of the sticks just to get better punt position.
I thought it would have been really funny if they threw that 5-yard pass to get down to like the 45 or whatever, and then they decided to take the delay of game to give the punter more room to work.
My God.
just give it right back.
You'd have to make sure that was intentional. Like everyone's like in a huddle instead of it just being like,
Exactly.
what are we doing?
Another one of these.
Right. And then the Broncos. So the Broncos punt. The Texans get the ball. Brandon Cooks gets a big 25-yard gain with Alex Singleton in coverage, and you're just like, oh,
Just
no, what
yep.
is happening? Yeah, but he's the one in coverage.
Yeah.
In that
Well,
zone.
yeah. I mean, they ran the route into his zone.
Yep, and he got smoked.
You
Yep.
could have seen that coming.
Yeah. Yes, and this was the
But,
drive that
on the other side, you're calling that a good play call.
Yeah, but then you're also, as the Broncos, you're saying, why the hell is their fastest, most dynamic receiver just running free in a zone?
Was
Who
Surtain
else is
out
going to
yet?
beat you on their offense, Ryan, in the passing game?
I'm just saying, like, the play design is designed to get him.
Yeah.
You're taking the corner off this way, and you're trying to get him against the linebacker.
so then why not just do that every play?
Because they'll call a different defense.
Right, your defense has to be. Okay, I'm not going to defend that. You're going to defend that. But on this drive, not only did Texans kick a field goal to take the lead, but this is when Surtain got hurt.
Yep. That was scary. And I thought the Broncos did a great job of absorbing it.
Yep.
Absolutely, they did. And I think Davis Mills and the Texans offense did a terrible job trying to go after Damari Mathis. It's not like Damari Mathis was tested 7 straight times after that. No, they didn't go after him at all. And that's
And
something.
the times that he did a pretty good job.
But I'm Jimmy Garoppolo looking at it next week. That's a matchup that I want to go after.
For sure.
That would
Then-
be a good call.
You gotta hope Pat's back.
And then here's when the booze really started. The Broncos get the ball down 6-3, they punt. And booze really started to rein in. And pretty much every negative thing that happened from there on out, Henry, there were boos in the stadium.
There were so many boos. And I will say, you don't boo the home team. It's got to be really bad. Unless you're saying fire the coach, fire the quarterback, you don't boo the home team. But I know that that's like people have their own feelings.
Everyone has their take on it.
Like, I would never boo Jokic. It just wouldn't happen. I would never boo Russ. I'd never boo, I just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, to me,
So different.
it just has to be. I'm not booing my team in a close game. If they're getting blown out, then I think it's fair to venture frustrations. In a close game, I just feel like you should be doing everything you can to help them.
That's fair. And now after the game, Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson said we deserve the boos. And in fact, I think Nathaniel Hackett said he booed himself. So they understand that things were drastically wrong, and that's at least good.
I like to imagine we got the Emmanuel Sanders like crying in the bathroom at halftime story. I want like the Nathaniel Hackett going in the looking in the mirror,
right in the mirror.
just booing himself in the mirror at
No,
halftime.
I want to see him pumping up the crowd with like a boo. The
Boo.
crowd's booing, and he just starts joining them, like
Yeah,
hands around his
boo.
mouth. He's booing too. We can laugh about it now because it was a win.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes wins great. The Broncos do get the field goal there before the half.
They do. They do.
Force a 3 and out,
uh,
negative 6 yards after that punt.
Yep, and you have Russell Wilson to Cortland Sutton with a massive 34-yard pickup and a first down to get them in field goal range.
I called that play live.
There we go.
Tony Romo'd it. It was sick.
There we
Nice.
go. And now we talked about this one, but this was the worst 5-minute stretch for the Broncos. You hope for this entire season. The word comes out that Jerry Jeudy and Pat Surtain right out of halftime have been downgraded to out. Then you have on the very first play, Lloyd Cushenberry holding, which negates a Melvin Gordon run. Then you have Russell Wilson run for his life to not get sacked. He picks up 4 yards. And then you have Russell Wilson throw the interception, which again was in Cortland Sutton's hands. That was awful. And you hope that that's the worst 5 minutes that the Broncos have this year.
Yeah, I mean, in that moment, you're thinking they might actually lose this game.
Yep. And then you're also thinking, what about Pat? What about Jerry? What
And
if they're 0-2?
The only criticism I have of Russ on that pass, because he put it in a perfect spot, is it's just a scary pass to throw to your one good receiver that's left.
Certainly.
Like you're saying like, hey, go get this for me and take a shot.
So then is that a bad play call? I'm not saying it is,
Yeah.
but I mean, Cortland was designed to run there.
Yeah, and you assume that Cortland coming out of the slot is probably going to, like, if you move him there, he's probably the number one read on that play.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
you do that for a reason. So
That's a
yeah.
good point, though. When you're in that situation, you do have to coach to put your guy in not dangerous situations.
Right, like, I don't want Cortland Sutton with his back to the safety.
Yeah.
In that, going up for a ball.
Right.
Keep him on the sidelines. He's destroying them over there.
Absolutely. The Texans get the ball, and they end up. Did they get a field goal on that one? Yeah, and I believe
Yep.
it was. They got that. Then the Broncos. Oh yes, they started off with back-to-back 11-yard runs.
And the Broncos bowed their back on the goal line, and that's when Brandon Cooks dropped the touchdown.
Yep.
So maybe we should all send Brandon Cooks a thank you letter. Because
Maybe.
different game if he catches that, and that's a touchdown.
Very, very true. Then you're hoping the Broncos respond, but no. The Broncos have a 3rd and 2. They not only don't get it, and they lose a yard on the 3rd and 2, they also have a holding, which the Texans decline. So it's 4th and 3, 4th and 2. Broncos go for it and get it. It was huge.
Biggest play of the game.
And then it didn't really matter because then on 3rd and 1, you have the Andrew Beck option where the Broncos don't get it. Then they have a delay of game. Then they punt the ball.
That conversion to court, right? That's the one. The comeback route
Yep.
should have been the play of the game.
Turning of the tide.
Turning of the tide. Okay, we got it. We can relax. We can breathe. Let's go play. And somehow just like a calamity of errors after that.
Yep, but good thing. We talked about it. The defense stepped up.
Also, this take doesn't play on a day like today. The delay of game on the field goal was bullshit.
Why so?
The ref had to have had his hand on the flag and on his whistle, and the second it hit 0 through it, and like it was 0 snap.
Well, you don't get the benefit of the doubt when the officials have their eyes on the play clock because you've had so many delay games that's going to happen. No,
For
it's
sure,
not right, but that
they
is just what's going to
don't do
happen.
that. That's so unlike. It's so unlike them to do that. You usually get almost like a full beat grace period. 0.
You do.
Flag.
But if it hit, yeah, I mean, if it hit 0,
No, I guess I shouldn't have said it's bullshit. It was just a very
ticky tack sort of thing.
ticky-
Of course,
tack.
on a day like today, you wind up with that one.
Yeah.
Like,
So
of course,
That's
a
what's going
penalized
to
team.
happen when you're really
Yeah.
bad at
right.
something.
Well, you build a reputation for something.
Just like Garrett Bowles.
Garrett Bowles and holding.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yep. So
100%.
I'm not saying it shouldn't have been called.
Yeah.
I'm saying, man, they were really clamping on you, and they were rough on you on that one.
That's very fair. But then the defense, like we talked about, came up big, forced the Texans on a quick 3 and out, which then gave the Broncos offense hope and life because that's when they had their touchdown drive there. And it started with Cortland Sutton, 37-yard pass. He was wide open. I mean, talk about Derek Stingley literally getting turned around. He thought Cortland Sutton was going to come back to the sideline, so Derek Stingley played that route, literally turned himself around. Cortland Sutton wide open. Russ did a great job to find him there. And then after a reverse to Sutton, which didn't do much, then you have Russell Wilson's beautiful pass to Eric Saubert.
Yeah. That the play to Sutton, when I am trying to pull positives from a game like this, I look at that one and I'm just like, Russell Wilson, that's Russell Wilson play.
Yep.
Like not the quarterbacks that the Broncos have had in the past. I just don't know if they're making that play.
Yep.
And that's where it's just like, thank God you have Russ. Like if there's one thing you can guarantee from Russ, it's that when someone's wide open, he sees them and he's delivering to them.
Yep.
Yep.
There are
No.
a few of those that you just look at and it's like, that's nice. Like when
Yes.
he's moving around the pocket, steps up, like scramble to a Sutton, just like hits him in easy 10 yards. You're like, that's not a play any other Broncos quarterback could have made.
Yep.
100%. So then the Broncos finally take the lead there. Then the Texans get the ball, and you have a Draymond Jones strip sack coming up the middle. Or no, it was Draymond
Yep.
Jones. It was believed on the field. Initially, it was Bradley Chubb, but it was Draymond Jones getting great pressure there. And then we had the timeout fiasco with no punt returner back there. The starting defense was still on the field. We're going to have to find out what that was about. Did the Broncos think maybe they were going to fake punt it? Or
I thought that's
what?
When I saw them lined up out there, I thought they were going safe punt. And then they zoomed out and there's no one back there. And I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, no. The touchdown that you just had felt like, oh no, now that we're losing it all around now. Broncos offense gets the ball, and they get to the red zone, but then have 3 straight passes when they end up kicking a field goal, but they still do get that field goal there.
Yep, and the
So
field
big.
goal, huge.
Yep.
You know, you had to have it. And Brandon McManus, you know, I give him shit. Every field goal but the 64-yarder, he has been so crisp on. Just effortless, down the middle, no stress.
Yep.
Even the 50-yarder that got taken off the board, or how was it? Was it 55?
I believe it was 54
Yep.
that then would have been a 59-yarder, but they decided not to kick it.
I would've
3
kicked it.
points off the board from that penalty. Just another one. Like, so easy to say, like, it could have been that much better right there.
Man, if I'm Hackett, I'm kicking the 59-yarder.
Me
if
too.
at sea level you kicked a 64-yarder and an opposing crowd with all the pressure on, I'm kicking a 59-yarder. If you really believe that Brandon McManus could hit that last week, you really think he's going to hit this one.
Except, I mean, you think it's a little bit less likely now after he missed the last one.
The one last week?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think he would adjust?
I'm just saying 59, that's easy.
At home?
Easy for him.
Yeah.
64, actually, anything over 60, not. Anything under 60 is.
What's interesting is Brandon McManus is about just a below average kicker in his career from beyond 50, from 50 to 59.
Yeah.
And you have to factor in, like, who's actually allowed to kick those. Like, you're not throwing Roberto Aguayo?
Aguayo,
Should be.
yes.
I mean, from 50 to 55, every kick, 50 to 54,
Yeah.
every competent kicker.
Like, in
you
there,
should be
you're trying.
those.
In there, you're trying.
But yeah, I
Anything
mean, it
beyond
is
that.
The
fair
only
around
reason
58.
why I think you don't kick it is because your defense was just so good today.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you're saying with
Yep.
that.
And then the defense again bows their back to tie the game up. Not even bows their back. They went and got it.
Yep.
The strip sack that goes through Bradley Chubb's hands again was just like another one. It's like, there's no way. Is this really going to happen?
Yeah.
But other than that, great plays. They, shook Davis Mills. He didn't look comfortable at all.
Yeah.
I mean, Randy Gregory tried to kill the guy, but with
Yeah.
how
That's what he
hard
does.
he hit him.
He
That's
hits
what he does.
people really hard.
He did. Oh, no, we just lost video feed.
Oh, good thing our producer. Wait.
Oh. Oh, gosh. All right,
Oh,
well,
boy.
you can still hear us. I know that for a fact. So.
Wait,
Yes.
is Allie kind of our coach in a way? Is this a Hackett-like performance with
This
the video
could
down?
be a coaching error.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh!
We have
here
no
she
video. Anyways,
I did have in the last drive, I was just looking through my notes. This is when they had like the couple of passes that were kind of that gap where you hope Justin Simmons is able to crash.
Yep, two
My-
passes for 40 yards.
Yep. In my notes, just looking back, I had 2 big balls in soft spot, dead center, cover 3.
Wow, that's
Just
the way
thought
to put it, Henry.
I laughed when I found that one. 2 big balls.
really quick. Everyone around when the Broncos got the turnover and downs thought it was game over, and I was sitting there like trying
Nope.
to tell everyone to stop. Like, that's not how this game is going.
My
Okay.
girlfriend texted me and was like, "Okay, we're gonna go head out there. We'll meet you at the car." And I was like, "Optimistic of you."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't mind if you boo your team, especially with what Broncos fans have been through, but half the stadium or more than half the stadium was gone, was cleared out at that point. And I looked at Hank and said, this game is not done.
No.
How many
despite
football
what
games
these-
have we all watched?
Despite what these
Yeah,
fans
yeah.
are saying here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what happened in these games, but somehow the Dolphins came all the way back today.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Somehow
gosh.
the Cardinals came back from
Yep.
20-0
Yep.
on the Raiders.
And,
like, everything,
And
until
the
there is
Falcons came back on the Rams. Now they didn't pull it
Yep.
off, but they came back.
unless
Kept my
there
parlay alive.
unless there is less time on the clock than they have timeouts and all that stuff and play clock,
Yep.
you have to stay.
Yep.
Because what was that? It was like 54 seconds. They're at like
No, it was
the
a minute
25-ish.
three.
A minute 3.
Yep.
They're at the 25. No timeouts. You don't expect it from them. More
can
than
happen,
possible.
though.
That happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like college football, that happens like 80% of the time they're
Because
in
they
that
get
situation.
the free timeout on first downs.
Exactly.
But still,
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I saw they have 3 timeouts, I'm like, well, okay, well, the Broncos are going to run this 3 times. You kind of
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Unless you get into like a 3rd and 4 or 5 scenario and you're saying, okay, let's get a big play action fake. The thing is, they were crashing the play action fake so hard you probably couldn't have even done that then. So I knew they're getting this ball back unless Javonte breaks one. And They were going backwards the whole drive.
It was.
yes.
I mean, you do have to run the ball, but what weak runs? And I'm
yeah.
not saying that that's all play calling. It's execution as well. But you could tell the calls there were don't fumble the ball.
Yes.
Yep.
Don't blow your assignment so much where Javonte is going to get hit
Yep.
by a 300-pounder
he
unblocked. Just do your job. It doesn't have to be great. Just don't mess it up.
You're just thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they can find 10 yards on 3 runs immediately? Like, false start. False start. Actually, no, it's 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 14 now.
Yeah.
It's like, there goes that.
Definitely tight sphincter syndrome there.
Yeah, and again, how do they keep getting got by their own hard count? Because it works. Russ's hard count is fire.
They have had a couple free plays.
Yes.
They have had a couple big free plays.
I think they've gotten other teams 4 or 5 times.
Ooh, is that like our hot take here? The hard counts that have gotten the defense to jump are worth the false starts.
No.
It is. Yeah. Those are free plays.
And they've had a couple.
Yeah, but you also have just terrible false starts. You just can't have
brutal.
a false start.
For sure. But if you tell me that there's going to be 8 hard counts that work, 4 of them happen to them, 4 of them happen to you, I'm taking the 4 free plays.
And the Broncos were able to pick up a PI because of it on one of them. That's when Russ just said, I'm going deep to Cortland. And then there was another flag on the play, which is a PI.
Yep, exactly.
And you mentioned free plays. If you want free plays, you can get them over at DraftKings
Nice.
Sportsbook. If you bet $5 on any NFL game money line, you get $200 in your account in free plays. In fact, it's going to be 8 $25 free plays, which then you get to use whenever you want. And boy, now's such a great time with football on Monday. We got 2 games tomorrow night, guys. 2 Monday
So
night
great.
games.
You know where
love
I'll
it.
be.
Oh, absolutely. Then you got a Thursday night game. Then you have all of Saturday and then Sunday again. And an awesome thing, we get to watch 2 games next Sunday before watching the Broncos play on Sunday night. And you can use your 8 $25 free bets over at DraftKings Sportsbook by using the code DNVR when you sign up. And anyone plays $5 bet, or new users place $5 bet, and you get $200 in free bets over at DraftKings Sportsbook when you bet on a money line NFL game. That's code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 and make sure to see the show notes for all the details.
And go watch the American Raptors too. They're a great rugby team. You know who thinks they're a great rugby team?
Who?
The Denver Nuggets, who were just out there this week getting a little footy in. And they looked like they were having some fun. So you can have some fun too if you go watch them, which you can do on their website. You can also get free tickets on their website. That's AmericanRaptors.com. They're a pro rugby team right here in Glendale, actually. It's known as Rugby Town, USA. That's where the U.S. national team trains. It's a really cool thing they got going on. So go over to AmericanRaptors.com, get some free tickets, and follow along with Colton Strickler at DNVR Rugby.
All right, let's get into the Super Chats. And Allie, you're going to probably have to help us by reading these.
I'm very curious what Broncos country's saying here.
Jacob said, looked bad and boring to me.
Ooh. Bad and boring. Worst combo.
It is.
I will say, if there's any game that this game reminds me of, it's the formerly the Washington football team game last year. I almost feel like everyone has erased that game from their memory because it was so bad. But the Broncos did win.
They did win, and it was dicey at the end.
It was the worst finish I've ever seen by a professional team.
Yeah, for coming out with the dub.
Yes, they fumbled 2 plays in a row.
My goodness.
You
With the
talk
game
about
on the line.
You talk about today. The rule was just don't fumble. That was the same thing then. They did it 2 plays in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
Oof.
Next one here. What's up, Sherman? Steady taking shots at Russ, SMH.
Yeah, this is.
You want to talk about corny?
This was one thing that we didn't get to talk about last week, but a ton of his teammates last week during the Monday night game were taking shots at him. I should say former teammates taking shots at him, and Richard Sherman again continuing to do that. I don't know what you're doing, Richard. This guy helped you win a Super Bowl. He was your quarterback then. Why are you doing this?
I mean, he's jealous that he got more credit than him.
It's one of those things where all offseason you hear, all those defensive guys, they really hate Russ. Like, they really, really hated Russ. Like, it's no surprise to anybody here that there was a big breakup here. And then you actually see this, and you're like, oh, they really hate Russ. Like, no, they were right. They really hate Russ.
People talk about Russ being corny. There is nothing more corny than being on your couch in taking shots at your former quarterback who helped you win a championship.
Now were they corny? I didn't see anything that Sherman said today. I would classify that as like cheap shots.
Yeah, either
but-
way, I just think it's corny as hell. You're like sitting there, like, taking shots and thinking that you're being cute and funny, and it's just like, you look like a loser.
Yeah, 100%. And it just makes you think like, what is he jealous about? What is he
Attention.
upset about? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that
you do
defense.
wonder.
He has a lot of attention in his life too. I mean, isn't he doing like Thursday night games? Like,
and he was taking shots at Russ then, too.
What are you doing?
Something happened.
Oh,
Between those,
that's
like
for sure.
there is a history there. It's not just like out of nowhere.
And Pete Carroll last week also taking shots at Russ after the game the following day.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most disturbing things, and Hank, this kind of goes to your point, is Pete said this was huge for our football team, for our fans,
Mm-hmm.
and for our former players. They told me how big this win was. And then someone said, Pete, why was this important to your former players? And he said,
People are.
I'm not going to answer that one.
I think we can imagine.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
hate Russ. I mean, Russ is taking the high road, which is
He is.
that's probably the real story here. It's like good for Russ, not
Just-
getting sucked in.
Also,
Don't
the
get
thing
sucked
that
in.
pisses me off about this is Russ corny. Of course he is.
Mm-hmm.
Does Russ do goofy things that make you cringe? Of course he does. Is Russell Wilson a fantastic guy? Yes,
Yeah.
he is. So, like, it's
Uh-huh.
not like they're taking shots at this dude with questionable character things, and
Yeah,
you're
where's
like,
the shots
okay.
at Deshaun Watson from former Texans teammates?
Didn't Richard Sherman have something this offseason?
Yes, he was. Or maybe
was
it was
arrested,
last
wasn't
offseason.
he?
Yeah, he went psycho mode at his like girlfriend's parents' house or wife's parents' house.
So that's just, I just have such a major issue with people poking at Russ when he's just this good dude.
Yeah, good dad.
Great everything. Great
good Samaritan. Yeah.
Yes.
Philanthropist.
Philanthropist. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was thinking philanthroparian.
It works for me. Yeah, it's corny to me. It's corny.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, next one. Jacob here said, like RK said, a win is a win. Once Hackett stopped trying to win, Russ MVP and decided to win the game. The offense looked better. I definitely feel better at 1-1 than 0-2.
To me, it felt like one of those things where he spent a couple days beginning of the week thinking, oh, wow, I really took the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. Oh, Russell maybe isn't showing me he's upset, maybe isn't saying he's upset, but I'd imagine he's upset. I'm not taking the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands again this week, and just overcorrected. And honestly, that's probably the best case scenario, because if he's thinking like, yeah, what we need to do is give the ball to Russell Wilson in every possible situation, there's a whole football team out there. But I don't know. It's a process. You got to learn the balance.
Calling plays is writing a story. You have to set things up. You have to, write a lead, and you have to pay it off at the end. And it didn't feel like that's what they did. It did feel like that's what they did last week. But being a play caller is being a storyteller, and the story was bad.
The story today was Top Gun, except it's
bullet
just like all the planes. Like, it's just everybody like flying and shooting in the air for 2.5 hours. It was just full speed, like bang, 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 and you're just like, oh my god, what did we just
Except
see? That was the story.
None of the shots hit the planes.
Yeah.
There were like 3 shots that did,
fair.
but over the course of a 2-hour movie, not enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think that you're giving
I'm going to
giving-
cut that and make that a GIF.
You're
That's
giving
what
way
happened.
too much credit to this game
It
with
didn't have
being
that
in
much
the
action,
air
yeah.
for 3 hours.
No.
No. This was not that.
The-
They're grounded for about
No.
45 minutes or 95% of the movie.
No, there's not hitting anything. Like they needed
more
to run the
exciting.
ball.
That's
We
exciting,
just need a love
attempted
interest on
action.
the side. We just needed a consistent love interest to like carry
Oh,
through. Like
yes.
just hand the ball to Javante.
Great
hand the ball
point.
to Javante. Oh look, you're going up to the sky again to fight whoever you're fighting, and you're leaving the love interest behind. That's the play action, by the way. That's what that is. But you didn't build that. It's just like, hey honey, I'm leaving, and then just shooting for
Just in the
hours hoping
planes.
something hits something.
Okay.
Not even any explosions. I'll say that. No explosions. No plane shot down.
My biggest fan said today Denver beat the undefeated Texans, and we have only allowed 1 TD all season. Broncos country, let's ride.
Love it. I just love the
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
Let's ride.
The defense has to get credit. That's all I gotta say.
Yep.
James here said, I really hope we're past the stage of great defensive team, mediocre offensive team, and I hope those days are past us.
This team's supposed to be built like they're past that. And now, We all would have thought if you had to pick one, the offense or the defense to start hot and the other one to be slow. Of course, you would have wanted it to be the offense, but realistically, we would have said it's going to be the offense that starts slow. New offensive system, new quarterback, new play caller, new head coach who's also dealing with the play calls. It's not a surprise that the offense is starting slow. But when you look and you see some things that work, you see some things that don't work, you just hope that it's able to continue to grow, and this isn't where the finished product is, but I don't think this is the finished product.
I don't either. And I also think that last week was a really good game plan that you executed really well, and you had it fall apart in a absolutely unlikely way.
Yep.
This week was a really bad game plan that didn't work, and you were able to scratch and claw your way into a victory over what we assumed to be a pretty bad team. Henry doesn't think they're as bad. Maybe he's right. That to me has to be kept into perspective. Like sometimes your game plan doesn't work, and
you got to rebound from that.
And
You
you
got to
ha-
learn.
right,
Especially
exactly.
if it's pass heavy and you lose Jeudy after losing KJ Hamler after
Yep.
losing Tim Patrick.
Man, rough.
Cody W here says, losing faith in Hackett. Players are good, though.
I feel the opposite.
How? So you're not losing any faith in Hackett?
No, way too early.
There are
Okay.
more growing pains than I expected. Losing faith, maybe no.
I at least have to see 1/4 of one football season before I can start to pass judgment.
Yeah, I just think it's fair to have questions now, and I certainly do.
I have questions too. I'm just
Yep.
not. I need answers to those questions before I decide if I'm losing faith.
And we didn't get any answers, in my opinion, from last week to this week, and that's where I was
True.
really hoping to
Well, they
see
went
it. Now the Broncos have
backwards.
to have and now the Broncos have to have answers to more questions against a better team.
That's going to be so nice. Like when you just play a good team, it's just like, do you win or not?
Yeah.
Because today when you're playing the Texans and it's like, oh, did you win by
What?
enough?
That's
No.
gonna be so nice.
Man,
Yes.
you have an answer. You have an answer.
There's no style points against the 49ers. It's just if
Do
you
you
beat
win?
them, good job. If you lose, bad job.
I know. That's the way football's. That's going to be nice.
Before this next super chat, stop fighting in the comments. I'm going to block you or put you in timeout.
Or we could pick a winner.
Cody then followed up by saying, losing faith, haven't lost all faith.
And that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
saying with I think it's fair to now just be a little worried, but it still is so early into Nathaniel Hackett's tenure.
Yeah, I just think it would be crazy to look back 7 years from now. Nathaniel Hackett's still the Broncos head coach. They've won
Yeah.
a championship. And I'm like, remember when you guys were losing faith after the second game?
Ryan, I also think people probably think you're absolutely crazy for saying that that's going to be the situation after these
Like-
first 2 weeks.
Maybe, but there's just
Yeah.
no way of knowing right now.
Exactly,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like there's a world in which you're saying like, wow, remember that weird thing when he was running the fullback option? Like, and then we thought this was never going anywhere. It works out. There's also a world in which you say, oh, hey, remember that Hackett guy who's just pulling all this shit out of his ass for 2 years? That was a wild time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I mean, there's a world in which you say, like,
to-
yeah, the
at
tight
this
end
point,
option.
Everything is still on the table.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have to get your opinion on this then. Nathaniel Hackett got a game ball. He's being absolutely clowned on social media for that. He got the game ball because it was his first win, just like the Walton Penner group got a game ball today because it was their first win. But people are killing him for getting a game ball.
What is
I
he
feel
supposed
bad
to do?
for-
He doesn't fucking
Yeah.
choose that.
No, they're not killing him. He didn't give it to himself. They're
That's what
just
I
saying,
mean,
like,
yeah.
are you kidding me? How did this guy get a game ball?
It's his
He
first
won
win.
a.
It's his first win.
Is a head coach who won a football game in the NFL.
So you agree with it?
He's
Oh,
one
absolutely.
of, like, I don't know, less than 200 people ever to accomplish that.
It would be really messed up if they didn't give him a ball.
Is that too low? 200 head, probably more than that.
Probably
Yeah.
more. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely more.
definitely
500.
Yeah, more. But I don't know. I feel bad for him, and I know that a lot of it, maybe 90% of it, he has brought on himself. But to make a really big, loud mistake in week 1 of the NFL season on Monday Night Football, that's something he will never recover from. There will be a lot of people.
He reaches the mountaintop.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Broncos make the playoffs and that game doesn't cost them a playoff spot,
No.
then yeah, I think so.
I
think
still
a
think
lot
there's
of
going to be a
Then
lot of people.
he will have bounced back and made good decisions
in
down
Denver. That that will
Yeah.
come through. But nationally, everyone
no.
already decided this guy's a goofball idiot.
There are a
Yeah,
bunch of guys
that's fair.
who are on TV on ESPN who say like, "Oh, this idiot can't believe he's the like, oh, this guy's an NFL coach. He's it's that kind of stuff where it's just not going to flip unless you really are successful for a long time.
If you make the playoffs first time as a head coach, national people will give you a lot of credit for that.
The good ones will.
Yeah. I'm with Henry. It's kind of how like MVP narratives are written in the first quarter of the season because people just like decide something, and then they don't, they feel like they don't even have to take their time to go back and look at it. Now
Make
it's a
the
little
playoffs
different.
and that
It's a
goes
little
through.
different in the NFL
It's
where
like-
the
it's-
end of the season really gets the most, but everyone watches every NFL game like for the most part.
It's like Dre and Matt LaFleur. Where it's like, sure, there have been the playoff things ever since, but like he had like the weird things for the first couple weeks, and he was always just saying like, yeah, this guy sucks. He's such an idiot. He still hasn't changed his mind.
Well, let's not do an LDJ here. Let's not worry about what the national media is saying right now. And I believe we had another super chat
Yes.
coming in from Evan. Says,
Thoughts on next week?
Very worried. Very worried. And I would not be saying that if Trey Lance is the quarterback. Straight up,
Yep.
guarantee they are better right now with Jimmy Garoppolo than they are with Trey Lance. It's not even close.
Yep.
And because of that, your challenge goes up exponentially. And for every one of Josie Jewell, Jerry Jeudy, Pat Surtain, KJ Hamler, for every one of those guys who don't play, it gets a notch harder. So the best thing you have going for you is that it's Sunday Night Football at Mile High. And you also have Russell Wilson, who doesn't lose home games on primetime. It's like 18-2 or whatever.
and you have a home crowd that's going to be helping you count down that play clock.
Please do.
Please
start a
don't.
trend.
No, please don't, because then that means the team actually needs that help. I hope they don't need that help next week. San
This is
Francisco
happening a lot all over the league.
of teams
Late play
counting down.
calls. No.
Oh, yeah.
Late play calls, delay of games, all sorts of stuff. I'm like, what is going on?
I
It
bet the
feels like
Broncos have the
everyone-
most penalties in the league.
Oh, yeah.
through the first 2 weeks.
25,
Didn't you say
second most is 17.
17. That
Wait,
San
what does that
Francisco
mean?
49ers.
Second most
Second most
is
is 17.
17.
Is
Oh
17.
my God.
That San Francisco 49ers Seattle Seahawks game today scared the hell out of me. Because not only did the Seahawks look terrible, and they were the team who just beat
Yep.
you. I know it was their Super Bowl last week, but you look at that, 49ers look great. That's your next opponent next week after they looked so bad last week. And now it's also Jimmy Garoppolo, who, when he came in the game, things just clicked.
And I haven't-
And the 49ers took their foot off the gas in that game, and they still won 27-7. This now is the NFC Championship team that we saw last year.
Totally.
I haven't seen a single play of that game, so I have no idea. But it does feel like this is basically just a coin flip as of right now. I'm excited to get to go watch. But to me, getting Quinn Miners back is huge. Getting him back is massive because you're going to need to be able to run the ball. I don't think they can do it without him.
Well, and Billy Turner, Cam Fleming came back to earth today. I think that's safe to say. Billy Turner was a full participant in
Yeah.
practice all 3 days this week. Did not play this week. I expect Billy Turner to be the Broncos' right tackle. But you said a coin flip, Henry. I know you do guess the lines. You okay doing guess the line on an early edition right now?
Sure.
Just for this game?
Yeah, I never guessed the Broncos one anyway because I always know it by that time.
Exactly. I don't think you know it now, though, do you?
Nope.
Okay, what do we think it is?
I know.
Well, then don't guess.
Broncos -3.
Broncos -2.
Okay.
Broncos -2, -2.5.
Pretty good at this
depending on
game.
where you look. Yep. So
Um,
coin flip is what
It
they're saying.
will move away from the Broncos.
As it should? It's a question.
I mean, I can't blame the public. Like, they're going to say, give me 49ers money line. That's what everyone's saying that right now that doesn't have a vested interest in the Broncos. Except for the people who might know the Russell Wilson home primetime stat.
The home is going to be big in that because the country just saw Russell Wilson lose a primetime game last week.
But see,
And
that
you are-
that's actually big because we learned it was not Russell Wilson in Seattle always wins in prime time. It's Russell Wilson at home.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And that one, you're going to need to score more than 16. You have my word on that.
You certainly are. And if the Broncos defense steps up again, that's going to be next week isn't a massive test, but that's a good test against
Yeah.
the 49ers offense. They're not an unstoppable powerhouse like the Chiefs are, like the great offenses are, but they're a competent, good offense.
And they have
Easy
a-
top half, I think.
And they have an incredible play caller. Just
And that's
so
hard,
gifted.
yes.
And by the way, they put up 27 today without George Kittle. If he's back next week without Justin Simmons, which the Broncos aren't going to have, that's scary.
You know what sucks? When Sunday Night Football game's over by the time we finish this
We
show.
get halftime.
No, I'm just saying it's 24/7.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is over.
All right.
Are we shocked?
No, not at all. I should have bet it, and I felt bad betting against CHGO.
We,
Sucks. I shouldn't have done it. Why did I do that?
we have another super chat here. Winning is one of the greatest feelings. I believe the adversity the team is facing, along with the criticism, will strengthen them as the season progresses. Wilson being here will absolutely be a difference maker long term.
Absolutely.
Absolutely should be.
And you almost saw like a big time Russell Wilson play. It's so many almosts.
Yep.
They bring a zero blitz, I believe on third down. Russ is escaping the pocket and then he gets tripped by Garrett Bowles. If Garrett Bowles doesn't accidentally trip him, Russ is able to identify that blitz, bail out of the pocket, and he's just running. There's no one there. Every defender's back is to him, and it would have been like a great play to just be like, that's Russell Wilson.
Man, that was tough, wasn't it?
That was brutal.
Oh man, you just see, and it's like he's slow motion falling,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Don't fall, get your feet again," and he just couldn't.
It's like, oh, now we're kicking a long field goal. Love it. Of course we're stepping back 10 yards.
Yeah,
And that's the one that actually counted? Or is that the one that ended in a punt?
that is
That
the
was
one
a
that
real one.
counted.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
Here we go. All right. I think that is going to wrap it up for us today. I told the guys before the show, if anything, this game gave us a lot to talk about over the next week, and I love that. So excited to talk with you guys tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and excited to see everyone out at the tailgate next week.
And shout out to everyone who hung out and watched the game with us today. Our watch along is almost at 5,000 views, which is pretty
Holy.
crazy.
I love it.
It was a fun
Y'all are going to
time.
make me have to do that every week. Damn it.
It's pretty awesome. But shout out to everyone who hung out with us the whole time during the tailgate, then the watch along, and now the post game. We still have some people in the comments who have watched every single one with us all day.
I
That
love
is
it.
so cool.
I love it.
I love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow.